There were quite a few people attending a very special ceremony in Wisconsin today. Freedom, the American bald eagle who was found with a broken wing along the Mississippi River and who went to Washington to welcome the freed American hostages, was set free herself. A report from Jillian Rice.
Freedom was brought to the University of Minnesota's Raptor Rehabilitation Program in December by the Iowa farmer who found her. Here, she was nursed back to health by Dr. Pat Reddick. In the past 2 months, Freedom has become as accustomed to being handled by human beings as any creature of the wild could be. Today, she was courted by a host of VIPs, including former hostage Lieutenant Colonel David Rader and comedian Fred Travalena, whose idea it was to take Freedom to Washington last month. Because this majestic bird has come to symbolize so much, Minnesota ex-POWs and families of Minnesotans missing in action were also invited to ceremonies at the university this morning. Then all boarded buses to Prescott, Wisconsin, where an even larger crowd waited.
She symbolizes a country that is willing to fly into the clouds and rain and storms of adversity to try to stamp out prejudice and discrimination throughout the world. So let's not look back. Let's look forward and hope that from this very day forward that we can continue to do things not only for the wildlife of this country, but also for the life of the world, if you will. And let's hope that from this day forward we can be headed towards a better world.
Freedom has been banded so that her future whereabouts may be tracked. She's just reaching maturity, and it's hoped she'll find a mate in this rugged environment along the river. Freedom seemed anxious to regain her liberation. As she was raised high above the heads of the crowd, she seemed to take one last look at her human benefactors, perhaps sensing that her own freedom was near. And she was out of sight in a second, off on her own freedom flight. Jillian Rice, Channel 5 Eyewitness News, Prescott, Wisconsin.
The story of the American bald eagle named Freedom, who was found in an Iowa field with a broken wing. She'd been shot. Today she was set free. Jillian Rice reports.
Freedom was brought here to the University of Minnesota's Raptor Rehabilitation Program, where more than 2,000 birds of prey have been restored to health and returned to a life in the wild. The Raptor program is unique to the nation, and it too now is as endangered as the birds it treats due to a lack of funding. During Freedom's 2-month stay here, she grew strong and healthy, and she became a celebrity. Freedom was flown to Washington last month to appear at a concert honoring the freed hostages from Iran. She appears to have grown accustomed to her fame, but today was her last public appearance, as she was pronounced the symbol of all former American prisoners of war, of the men missing in action, and of course of the 52 hostages. And then it was off to Prescott, Wisconsin, where a crowd of about 200 and the Prescott High School band waited at a park along the river bluffs that are Freedom's natural habitat. She seemed eager to test the mended wing. Perhaps she was flustered by the crowd and the noise, but then perhaps she sensed the nearness of the river and her own imminent flight to freedom. Lieutenant Colonel David Rader, a former hostage and a native Wisconsinite, flew in from Washington for today's ceremonies.
As we let this lady go, and she flies away from here today and starts her trial and ordeal of survival, I think it's particularly fitting that as a symbol of this country, she symbolizes a country that is willing to fly into the clouds and rain and storms of adversity to try to stamp out prejudice and discrimination throughout the world.
Jillian Rice, Channel 5 Eyewitness News, Prescott, Wisconsin.